What about fourth?
Fourth, I'll give it to maybe Piastri, homeboy, with the
Yeah,
fans
Piastri
behind him.
Yeah, I think Piastri is struggling this year, and he should come on the podium. He actually should come second, but
Yeah.
he's going to be struggling from somewhere.
I just feel
And
the
he'll be very
car,
lucky if he comes
the
third.
car is so powerful. It might just help.
Yeah, but I think he doesn't look motivated. He's got a girlflation now or a fiance or something walking everywhere with him. He hangs out with his fiance. Now he has money. I think he lost his hunger, but we're about to find out. All right, take us. McLaren still has the best overall balance, and this helps them with their setup because they don't have to worry about sacrificing downforce or uh, downforce or going or worrying about drag on high speed corners because they have very flexible wings in the front and the back. And the flexi wing is not going to be banned yet in the front. And they still have a very good back wing. And they have very good, stable chassis. Now, I think Mercedes is catching up in stability, but may not have the same sort of dynamics that McLaren has with balance on the corners. But I think they've caught up, and to me, Mercedes is right behind them and might actually have a little bit more straight line speed. What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
Yeah, I agree with you. In my own opinion, too, I think McLaren, certainly in this first race, is the team to beat. They have a very, very fast car and certainly very reliable. And early data from the precision testing shows that the car is just as strong as it is last season. And with
Yeah.
Piastri at home and Lando Norris in a very good car, it seems as if the strength of the car might just tilt it in McLaren's favor, really.
Yeah.
That's what,
Now McLaren has had some problems because their car they changed their steering rack and moved it a little bit forward. It might have become a little bit more fronty, but it has a lot of grip. But the track at Australia is not very technical. Do you have the track?
no, I don't have the track.
Okay, I'm gonna upload it. But anyway, the track is very high speed. It doesn't have a lot of technical corners. It doesn't have any pronounced S's. It does have some hairpins and some low speed areas, but for the most part, it's a high speed track and the corners are high speed. But even the corners are gentle. They're almost like straights. They're not. So any advantage that I mean any problem that McLaren would have with cornering with because they're a little bit unstable midway through the corner and coming off of the corner midway through the corner because of some handling issues they had. I don't know what was the cause of it, but it was going towards the back instability. And then coming off the corner, they were losing the back again, and that was due to too much grip. But on this track, I don't think that's going to be such a big issue for them. So we can't count that against them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the track layout would be much of an issue for them. And I'm touting them to have a very, very good race this time around, especially with Oscar Piastri racing in front of his home fans. I think that will be added motivation for him. And McLaren's development also translates effectively into race conditions. I think they would ace the qualifying, and I think they will perform very well in the race itself. There are a lot of high speed corners in this layout, track layout, and I think there are four DRS zones. So they need to watch out for those portions of the of the track layout. But I feel I'm confident in McLaren would have a good race, at least to kickstart the F1 season.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, they should be fighting for um, first and second. I think as far as construction points, they might get more points. But I right now, what's his name has been struggling, Piastri. So it's not a set thing. I think what we're looking at for first place is a very good chance of Norris getting first place. It's not guaranteed though. I think Leclerc is going to be up there. I think Verstappen may not have quite the car he wants. They've made some improvements. He said he's happy with the sim results, and they did look more stable. But we have to remember, Red Bull may not have a great correlation between their sim results and real world, which is a big deal. Ferrari says they're happy with their sim and they have a little bit better. But what I see is that with this track, it has a lot high speed, which is a disadvantage for Ferrari. But Ferrari's gotten a little bit better with high speed corners. They're still good with low speed, and there's a lot of areas which are going to benefit them for low speed. So I see Ferrari as being a little bit behind McLaren. And we have to go back to Bahrain. In Bahrain, the race pace for McLaren, they were I think they were 3/10 of a second faster than Ferrari and Mercedes. Now I think it's going to be a little bit less now on the Australian track because it's not as technical as Bahrain. I'm going to say that McLaren still had when I say no 3/10 per second, I mean it was half a minute, so 3/10 per lap. But overall, they were half a minute. They were 30 seconds ahead of Ferrari and Mercedes. I think it'll be a far less than that. They might win by anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, but the gap has closed. And with the way Leclerc drives, he might be able to push and win this. But I'm going to say that Leclerc is going to come second. What Norris is going to come first. I think Piastri is a weak link, and I think that we'll either see Hamilton or Verstappen come third. I'm going to predict that Piastri is going to come anywhere from third to fifth. So third to fifth is going to be a battle. I've forgotten about Russell too. So I think Russell most likely could get third or Piastri. So Russell, Piastri, Verstappen, and Hamilton will fight for third to fifth. What do you think? Yeah. And then we'll get to that, what you're showing there. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite agree with you. Basically, I feel that for Ferrari, what I really feel is that Ferrari has a new lineup, especially with Lewis Hamilton, in spite of his experience. The chemistry between him and Leclerc is very, very vital, first and foremost, and his ability to adapt. You know, adaptability, chemistry with a new teammate counts for a lot more than all the championships you may have won because it's a new car and it's a new teammate, new team rules and stuff like that. So I don't think we would see much of Ferrari in the first race. I don't think we'll see much
Yeah.
of Ferrari in the first race. I
Yeah.
believe
Well, I'm predicting that Ferrari will is the second best car on the grid right now.
I
Followed
believe
no, Mercedes. Mercedes and Ferrari are fighting for second best. I'm actually going to say Mercedes. A lot of people are saying Ferrari. I think Mercedes is. So I might have to rethink what I'm saying. Antonelli is not going to be a factor. But yeah, continue. Sorry for jumping in front of
yeah,
you.
what I feel is that the ability of Hamilton to adapt, as well as his team dynamics with Leclerc, is going to go a long way to define a lot of things. And I
But I
think
think we can focus. This is a single man race. So I don't think team dynamics is going to matter here. I think what happens is that Hamilton is still trying to catch up with the car. Fortunately for him, in Australia, is not the most technical type of
of
track, so I don't
track,
think he'll struggle. It's not a very technical track, but
technical
he still
track.
struggles to qualify. Let's go back to the track. Let's take a look at it.
Okay, because I feel if there's going to be anything to talk about here, it's going to take some time for Hamilton to settle down.
Load up the track. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's take a closer look at this. So this type of track, and I think Leclerc did very well here last year. Sainz won this race last year, and this track has some good characteristics for Ferrari because it's got, if you look at from 11 to 12 to 13, that's a place where you need
Yes.
downforce.
Yes.
11, 12, you need downforce for that. And then you've got even 14. That's the type of thing that Ferrari does well. Although Ferrari has become more fronty, which means they'll do better also in some high speed areas like the blue area from which is 6, 8, 9. But once again, we have to say that McLaren is built for any track, and I still think that
Yes.
McLaren
They're
has the
built for
advantage.
any track.
And I still think it's those wings because McLaren doesn't have straight line speed. And if you notice, this track doesn't have a very long straight. It's mostly
No,
high
no, no,
speed
no, no.
corner.
High speed corners.
Also,
And they
also
said
this
they said
track,
they've actually even worked on turn 6 and 7. They've actually worked on turn 6 and 7. I think that's where Russell had an accident last time out in
yeah, yeah.
2024. They said they put some safety equipment around turn 6 and 7, so to prevent that kind of
And Russell's a smooth driver who preserves his tires. But apparently, even though it's going to be very hot here, this track doesn't degrade the tires too much, and it's a two-stop
yes.
race.
Well, I
So he won't be
sincerely hope so. I sincerely hope so because Russell is more of a one lap person over a
yeah, so
long
I don't think this track is
over a
going to.
long
It's not going to be
race.
unfair for him. Russell does very well on high speed corners with constant radius and things like
Yes.
that with his
So
smooth driving. He's not going to be able to get
yes.
away with that. But
Over a
we
long
still,
race.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Over
main thing, yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
Over a long race where tire deg is going to be a factor, I think it will test Russell significantly. But
Yeah.
the fact that the weather conditions are, predicted to be, they're expecting some rains on the race day as compared to
If
hotter
there's rain on
conditions.
Wednesday, that's going to help Verstappen. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's going to help Mercedes as well. It's going to
Russell
help
because
Mercedes
they're
as well.
using cold
Yeah,
weather
because
and
traditionally Mercedes usually does well in cold conditions.
yeah, and they'll be okay. No, Mercedes does well in cold, and on qualifying it's going to be very hot, but it's only one lap, and I think Russell can push it hard. But I'm going to still say it's still early, so we don't really know what's going on. I'm going to predict that pole position is going to be a fight between Russell, Leclerc, and Norris. We can never rule out Verstappen, but I just don't think that the Red Bull car has performance that it wants because they start to mess around with setup. They're bringing a new floor and they're going to bring a wing and they've added some balancing things to their front wing, so they'll be more stable. But I don't think they just have that outright performance. I think they'll do decent in the race, but I think the trend from last year is that Verstappen is going to be struggling. They just don't have enough speed around the whole track. I think a lot of it has to do with the imbalance they have, so they can't get the right setup to exploit straight line speed and then high speed corners and downforce. It's very weird. And what Verstappen is going to have to do is add 2 or 3 tenths of a second and do very well on technical tracks. This is not a technical track with a lot of technical corners. The more technical a track is, the more Verstappen can take advantage because then it's also about driver skill and not just about the balance of the car. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, but nobody could bet against Verstappen. If there's one driver who can extract maximum performance from a bad car, is Max Verstappen. But like you
Yeah, but the
rightly
problem is that
mentioned, it
go
won't
ahead,
be
go ahead.
easy.
Yeah.
It won't be easy for him this time around.
Yeah, the
Especially
problem is
with if you look at the preseason testing for Red Bull, it wasn't particularly impressive. So it won't be easy for him this time around. But his racecraft and race pace generally would keep them just afloat. They may not win the race though.
no, the problem is that he can extract as much as he wants from that car, but if 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 McLaren has a 30-second advantage, it's just too much. The way, for example, the way that Norris beat Verstappen in Zandvoort, it was just unbelievable. We'll have to wait and see. We have to see just how much pace, how much race trim these guys have. McLaren, I
Yeah.
think, relative to the field, every team is caught up with them in race pace. But in ideal conditions in Bahrain, when it was a little bit cool, they blew out everybody by 30 seconds. When the
And,
weather
and
was warmer, the weather was warmer, they
okay.
they had
And
problems with stability,
oh yeah, sure. Problem with stability.
the
And
over rotation. Yeah,
and
and and
one thing I would like one driver I would like to see is Max Verstappen's teammates and how he adjusts to all the issue in the Red Bull
yeah,
car. Liam Lawson. It will be
yeah,
interesting to see how we adjust, and it will be closely monitored and watched, especially
yeah,
after all the mistakes of Checo Perez last season.
yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of
Now
focus on the young guy.
let's talk about Aston Martin. A lot of people think they were sandbagging, so they're presumed to be a little bit slower than everybody. Some people have them as ninth. I don't believe that, but I think they might be in danger of losing out to Haas or who does Piastri? No, Alpine. Alpine is a Gasly. Haas or Alpine or Williams. I think they've got Williams beat, but Haas or Alpine might give them a challenge for that fifth position. But I think they've been sandbagging, and fifth might be good for them. But let's focus on Alpine versus Williams and Haas. I think Alpine still is the fastest, most dynamic car out of those three. I think Williams is the most stable. Williams is very stable and Sainz is doing work. And I think before the end of the year, Williams will come close to passing Alpine and giving Alpine and Haas a challenge. But for now, I think Williams just doesn't have this the pace to challenge Alpine and Haas. So it's going to be close. Haas has a lot of straight line speed. They're getting better on high speed corners, but I don't think they can handle low speed corners as well because they're still developing their balance and they have a ways to go. So I'm going to say Alpine is going to come sixth. They're going to be the top of the midfield, followed by Haas, then followed by Williams. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. I expect great things from Carlos Sainz. Having moved from Ferrari to Williams, and I believe also that Alpine would do well. But as for Aston Martin, I feel well. They said they were sandbagging, but I feel they are not quite ready for this season. So I was wondering why would they be hiding some of what they actually want to display? But then
Well,
again,
maybe they weren't focusing. I don't think they were focusing on fastest lap or focusing on long stints. I think they were just focusing more on experimenting with balance and things like that. So that even not that they were trying to hide things, but they weren't concerned about all out performance. They were concerned about working on other aspects. So they didn't try to test their all out speed. That's what I think. But what do you think? Yeah.
yeah, perhaps maybe they didn't want to stretch the car as much as they would have loved to. But if you consider the
I
way
think Haas
teams are,
did the same thing. Haas did not show their cards. They worked on some minute things. Uh, Williams was a balance in between the two. What? Because I think Williams wanted to test just how fast they are. Go ahead, yeah.
yeah. So well, I assume
Because you have to remember last year Alpine was Ocon was coming fifth in qualifying. So
yeah.
also Alpine didn't really test out, and I don't think much has changed from last year. There hasn't been that much for development. But anyway, what are your thoughts in
No, but
general?
now they have Jack Doohan.
Yeah, how's that going to help them?
Yeah.
What's
Well,
Jack
well,
Doohan? What difference is he going to make? We're talking about cars here, not drivers here. What difference is Doohan going to make? This is about the car. Yeah,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
have Gasly.
The
Gasly
Alpine
is one of the top four
A525.
drivers in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah,
what's the relevance of Doohan?
the Alpine A525 showed a lot of promise in testing, especially with a two-tone design. And the focus on weight reduction. They did one or two upgrades to reduce the weight. They sort of try to improve on what they gained from the 2024 season. And I feel that will help them this time around. And they
Yeah,
decided to continue with Renault engines, you know, uh, and I think that will really help them. They're expected to be one of the top midfield teams, and I
yeah.
feel they're really
They
going to
might
do
maybe
well.
fourth from what I hear, but we'll see. Yeah. I think Red Bull is a wild card. They're in trouble though. But
Red Bull is
Alpine, I
in
don't think Alpine
Red Bull
made
is
their
in
change.
serious trouble because they got
And
out of jail so many times last season because of Max's race pace. They're not going to be as fortunate this season.
no, and this Australian track is so vague. What I mean by so vague, it doesn't have any. It's not predominantly low speed, and it's not predominantly high speed, and it's not predominantly technical. It's basically a fast track, and most teams won't be able to differentiate themselves. I actually think this track helps Haas a lot because Haas has a lot of straight line speed. Also, Mercedes has a straight line speed. So let's get to the crux of everything now. I'm going to predict that for whatever reason, Mercedes is overall this year has the number two car, but for this track, I think the fastest car is McLaren, and it's close between Mercedes and Ferrari. Between those two, Mercedes and Ferrari will fight for who's the second fastest, and then Red Bull is a little bit behind them, but they have the max factor. And also, if it rains on Friday, on Sunday, and if it rains heavy, that's going to change everything and just throw this whole race into chaos. What are your last thoughts?
Oh yeah, I quite agree with you. It's McLaren's to lose in the first race of the season. With all the uncertainties and all the unpredictabilities, I think McLaren will be the team to beat. And of course, between Mercedes and Ferrari, somehow,
Yeah,
if Charles Leclerc can reduce he's so aero-strewn and aero-prone. If he can
yeah,
reduce some of his errors, actually a very good driver. And I'm expecting big things from George Russell as well. And I feel
yeah,
Mercedes too would improve their performances in hot
yeah,
conditions and do something about their tire degradation this season. If
yeah.
they can do
So we have,
that, if
yeah,
they can do that, they
yeah.
stand
It's
a
going to be
chance.
hot, but I think Ferrari will be okay. Tire deck won't hurt them, and I think they'll figure it out. Whatever that problem is, I think it might be overrated. That
Okay.
problem that they were saying in testing, but maybe not. I don't think Ferrari is ready though yet. I don't think they've fully tested out their car because they made some changes with their
Because
front
even
suspension.
Mercedes did relatively well in preseason testing.
Oh no, they did very well, and they're consistent. So we know that Russell is consistent, and he'll have perfect times. It's just a matter of how much overall pace they have, and also he's not going to be able to take advantage of his beautiful ability to finesse corners because these corners aren't too cool. But anyway, let's go to the top five. So I'm going to say Norris is going to win. I'm going to say Leclerc is going to come second. I'm going to say that Russell third, Piastri fifth, and Verstappen fourth. What's your top five?
Lando Norris first, Leclerc second, just as you mentioned, because it's now a battle between McLaren and Ferrari. And then I want
Yeah.
George Russell to come third as well. But you never know. If George Russell qualifies very well and they get the weather on their side on the race day, he might just finish first or second.
Yeah. What about fourth?
Oh, fourth, I would give it to maybe Piastri, homeboy, with the
Yeah,
fans
Piastri beating
behind him.
Verstappen. Yeah, I think Piastri is struggling this year, and he should come on the pole. He actually should come second, but
Yeah.
he's going to be struggling from
I,
somewhere,
I just feel
and
the
he'll be very
car,
lucky if he comes
the
third.
car is so powerful, it might just
Yeah,
help
but I
him.
think he doesn't look motivated. He's got a girlfriend now or a fiance or something walking everywhere with him. He hangs out with his fiance. Now he has money. I think he lost his hunger, but we're about to find out. All right, take us out, Afalabi. Thank you.
Okay, it's been another wonderful Formula One show. We've been previewing the first race of the season, Melbourne. And from me and Mustafa, we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks. Have a good one. See you probably tomorrow. I'll let you know. Okay.
Tomorrow.